So going into round 1 of top 8, we have managed to win a die roll. We have looked up opponent and we figured out they normally like to play things like, their most recent results that I was able to find were typically shops, but ones with Goblin Welder, which was a little bit new to me. So it was like a shops painter deck. So we've put them on some kind of shop strategy. And we've actually, so the reason we keep this hand against like a shop strategy is we have 3 lands. So we can start, and we can cast our spells, right? So we have lots of 1-drop spells, the ability to cast them all, and you know, we're probably going to hunt for more lands, maybe a couple of wastelands. Lavinia's perfect, I suspect. And so I've sent 1 land away, which is fine, because I think we're going to be able to cantrip again for another one. So we... Okay, so we're just going to bauble here. And we bauble ourselves so we can decide to fetch it, or if we want to fetch whatever it is away, and I think we do. And we find the Force of Will we were hoping to find. An opponent cleverly, of course, wastelands us to make sure we can't cast our Force. And then I think from memory they drop a Sphere. So here I think, yeah, we find out that they're playing with Tanglewire. So we are absolutely going to Force of Will this. We cannot let this resolve from the position that we're in. Opponent will be able to, more or less uncontested, just like tap down 2 spheres, Tanglewire, have 6 mana open, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We will take away some of their mana to try and lock them under their own spheres. And opponent's on an Ancestral Recall, so a blue shops build, which has been kind of, I guess, fairly novel. So we are going to, what are we, top. So I think we have another land coming as well. So we're once again still just trying to cut them off mana, and then we get to deploy our Lavinia. And this should be fairly punishing for our opponent, depending on how many creatures they play and how many lands they draw. But it does just put them in a difficult position where it's very hard for them to deploy like a lot of their more significant threats. So we will preordain, I imagine. Oh no, okay, we're brainstorming. And I think we want to put back probably like Bauble Ruby and strip mine them again. Okay, and we can, this turn, if we play out the Ruby, this lets us play out our Arcanist. I guess it doesn't matter too much. Opponent's very locked under their own spheres. This is kind of the dream, right? Like everybody wants to be able to lock shops under their own spheres, and it's so rare you get to do it. So it feels really good when it works. Opponent can't strip mine us, I don't think. Because if they do, they're going to... so that's why we didn't play the Arcanist the other turn. Okay, so it's 4 mana. I messed up the mana math there. Yeah, opponent can't strip mine us because it just means they can't do anything. So we will drop our Arcanist now. Speed up our clock ever so slightly. And we can put back Lavinia and Pyroblast, no worries. And here, I think we even get to cruise for 1. Which is important because it lets us still hold up Swords to Plowshares. And Force of Will. So we're starting to find ourselves in a really dominant position after having managed to play through 2 spheres. And opponents, conceded. So I think we can put that 1 to bang on the play and being able to develop enough and be able to cast some of our spells early enough that we actually got to be able to, put ourselves in a position to get out from under. I think if we'd been on the draw, we probably lost that match. So I can't remember what the previous hand was. That's a shame. So obviously I mulliganed. We have, I imagine, kept this and probably bottom a Wasteland. We're not super high on the Force of Will here. You know what, I want to go back and, I'm sorry everybody who's watching, I want to go back and see what the first hand I mulled was. So, sorry, it was getting late at night by the time I was playing these. We didn't finish up till about 2 in the morning. Okay, so yeah, this hand just doesn't have a Force of Will, and has 3 2-drop threats. Only one of which I think we're excited about immediately. So yeah, I can understand mulliganing this. And yes, I think this is a better hand. We have artifact removal, Force, Wasteland. And I think we need to force the smokestack, or we're never getting ahead. And we're trying to do what we did last time, but it's obviously not going to be as effective. So Patchwork Automaton means they now have a fast clock. And we're just trying to take mana away from them. So we've stopped opponent from getting at least one of their Saga tokens. They're still going to get the next one, and we really need to start drawing spells. So what we really need to draw here is we need to draw something like Shattering Spree. Unfortunately, Tangawire comes along instead. And Tangawire on this board position from our perspective is probably near... no, okay. So there are... like Ancestral would get us out of this. Ancestral into something involving like a Mox and another spell would be a way out from this, but we just don't find it. So I think opponent's just going to have too fast a clock from here on in. They get to keep tapping down their... It's interesting they tap down their artifact mana instead of their Volk, but I guess they've got something in hand. And we get another Tangawire, and this will just lock us out of the game. So we will move on to game 3. So, of course, we're going to take the play. And we are keeping this every time. So, we're going to need Ancestral to hit something. Like, we're not cold to most things, but we'd really like a force of will. And the moment we have a force of will, we can pitch a Lavinia. That will buy us time to get to next turn to play a Lavinia. And hopefully start finding something to do from there. Also, this is a hand where, because we know we're not playing against a blue deck, so we're not playing around Force of Negation, we get to turn one Ancestral ourselves, and the reason we get to do this is because we're not going to overdraw, because we're going to be able to play out our Ruby. And we hit our Force. So obviously this is a Force of Negation, so there will be some things it doesn't hit, but I think most of the things we're really scared of, this is fine. Patchwork Automaton is not a problem. Yeah, there we go. So I go ahead and exile a Lotus, which is kind of like a high risk, high reward play. Not sure if correct. It just kind of depends on what they had to deploy afterwards. So if they have like double, maybe not double sphere. Maybe we did need to wait for the next spell, so they needed to use the Lotus first. Anyway, in the meantime, we're going to deploy our Lavinia, just because this will drastically slow them down. It'll cut off any Moxen, it'll cut off, just cuts off lots of things. They can play Spheres now. And so Shattering Spree was a really good draw, because what this is going to let us do now is we're going to be able to, like, we have sufficient mana to Swords Patchwork Automaton. And so I think okay. So I'm wondering if I was going to soak the damage there, because soaking damage is a bit risky, but we are like at a healthy life total. An opponent's going to... So I guess they get to tap these three next turn and still hold up 6 mana, plus whatever Saga gets, but that's fine. So in the meantime, we'll just go ahead and Swords this. We'll tap down 4 things. I think we can go ahead and preordain here. And we definitely take the Shattering Spree, and I think we keep the Strip Mine for an extra Urza's Saga. Okay, Trinisphere is fine. And so what do we do? So for the first Shattering Spree, we just remove the Trinisphere. We hold the Strip Mine here so that opponent can't wasteland it to let them play out a Saga. We always want to tag a Saga with our Strip Mines, I think. Or at least from the position that we're in. Not in every position, but in this current one, definitely. So opponent can play 3 CMC permanents, possibly 4 after they do this. So yeah, they've got a Crucible of Worlds. We're going to have to tap down 2 permanents. So in our turn, we're going to tap down Lavinia. We're always happy to tap down Lavinia here. Lavinia, we don't need the clock, we just need to find a way to get ahead. And that means, in our case, resolving Shattering Spree. So we're going to start by wastelanding an Urza's Saga. We're going to Shattering Spree 3 permanents. And I think that is going to be, so yes, Sphere, Crucible, and Soul Ring, I guess. This opponent still, obviously, there's something going on the other side of the board there. So they must either have a really high CMC permanent, like a God Pharaoh statue, a Mox, I guess, or a Mana Crypt, or I'm not sure what else. And maybe they just keep drawing lands. Anyway, so we now get to Expressive Iteration. We will take... I think we can Dreadhorde Arcanist Dig Through Time this turn. Okay, so there might have been a good reason to play out the Strip Mine last turn, but we can wait on the Dig Through Time. It doesn't matter too much. And opponents, they've had enough. To be fair, Dreadhorde Arcanist with Shattering Spree in the bin is just going to be a beating. And is probably going to run them over pretty quick. So, so that's our first round of top 8.